Basketball.
It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skiddy, and Mally for the Insight NBA show.
G'day everyone and welcome to the Inside NBA show. I am at NBA G Wiz, also known as Matty. Paint me like one of your French analysts, G. And this is my guy Skiddy at Skiddy IFS. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, mate. I'm a nice little baguette to your French latte, so take that as you will. I'm going very well, as we always do here on the Inside Fantasy Sports Network. Gee, it's another beautiful night here, and we're just another day closer to the NBA season start, and I think we're 20 days away.
Which actually does coincide with I have 20 things to say in 20 days. My first post of that has come out after we do this podcast. One thing a day. It's like a thing, amusing. And to get those, make sure you do the right thing. Like this video right now. Don't go any further. Like you're watching it. It's just down there. There's a little button that has a thumb up. That's the one you want to hit. We don't worry about the other thumb. You only need the one. And subscribe to all our content leading into the NBA season. This show is one I call Slippers, Not Sleepers. I did it last year. We had a bunch of views on it, a lot of comments on it about different guys, and opened up the conversation. Skiddy, the methodology, the thinking is this. There are guys that we call sleepers, mate. What is a sleeper to you for a start? Like when you hear the term sleeper, what is that?
That's a nice snooze in the afternoon, G. That's when you're in your rocking chair and you just put the legs up and there you go. But in fantasy terms, that would be when a player that you perceive as having a certain round of value and that goes past that round of value. So let's say if you're looking at someone that would have the perceived value of the 10th round and then he drops into the 11th and the 12th, that would be a slipper.
Now, that is a slipper because the sleepers are the guys you're like, oh, I'm going to pick up Zach Edey late in my draft because he's going to be the starting center possibly in Memphis and there's heaps of minutes and he's going in like round 12. And they're like these sleeper values because there's an exponential leap or perceived value. Slippers are not these guys. Slippers are the guys who you're sitting there in round 3 or 4 and they're still on the board and they perhaps should not be. I've left this guy off the list straight away. Number one target by all intents and purposes is Kawhi Leonard. He is a classic case of a slipper. So I've left him as my case definition, Skiddy. He is a first round player, you could argue. And he's not. Why is he not a first round player?
Well, it's injuries, and now it's especially what the hell's going on with how he's not quite right, still coming off of the injury. What was it, 2 ankles I think he had done? Or was that Chris Middleton?
That's mids. Yep.
That's mids. So Kawhi's still got the injury risk. And, people are still just extremely worried about what we're going to get from Kawhi this year. And I've seen some people say 50s. I think that's a little bit.
It's so low.
Little bit. We're still talking first round value here, and we have no more Paul George with him. So I think we can slide him down to the 30s or so, and we could look at that. But shit, Kawhi at 30 is very intriguing, G.
It is. It's very intriguing. Now, look, you could probably take away that how many games is he going to play after this news? Like maybe no back-to-backs. We're finding out that he might not play them this year. That's 16 back-to-backs. So there's 8 games immediately off his 82, which makes him only eligible for 74 games immediately. And then you hoping that he plays another bunch. So this is a classic case where he is falling down in drafts into the 30s. And you're kind of scratching your head at that point going like, do I take him? He's currently started at 40 in Yahoo leagues, and the most recent ADP data is 34. But again, he has slipped down this one. So let's go through the list of 10 guys, basically, that we see as slippers, dudes who have gone down in their rankings during the course of the preseason and who we could get. And the first one is a darling of mine and a darling of yours and a guy who is just injustice in fantasy world. Yeah. I put him there for you. Fred VanVleet, mate, what is going on and why do you think Fred VanVleet is down so far and slipping back in your drafts? Because to me, he is a must draft at this point.
Mate, it's honestly got me stuffed as well. I think it's because people don't value how good he is on the defensive end. That's 0.8 blocks last year from a guy that's 6 foot and over 1.3 steals. Mate, that's bloody hard to find for someone, especially that doesn't hurt you field goal. Oh, he does hurt you a little bit in the field goal, but free throw doesn't hurt, but he gets you good points, good assists, good rebounds. Yeah, he can really help out in a lot of different categories. I don't understand why he's slipping so far. Like, I just don't get it. He's still the number one option. Let's be honest.
I do have I know there's there's like Reed Shepherd. We want to see him unleashed and let's see what Jalen Green can do. And there's trade rumors and all that jazz. But I also have another reason. I think there might be an outside chance that some people have been to the bookstore and seen the VanVleet on the spine of this book and just read it as VanVleet and thought that he was Matthew and he's given up his career for Splash Goes the Whale instead of Splash Goes the three-pointer. Because, Jason Tatum's writing childhood books, so why not Freddie? But no, look, for me, is it absolutely – you didn't expect that, did you, today, Skiddy? You didn't expect to find out that Fred VanVleet is a child book author under the name of Matthew VanVleet, did you?
I don't know where you go with half your crap, G, but that's really pushing the bottom of the barrel.
Look, man, a Splash Goes well. Look, there just has to be some reason out there that this guy has dropped from 34, and we have him as a top 20 player, and he's drifting around or more in value. And this guy is another one. It's weird as well. After media day, just the other day, we had normal Jimmy Butler Skiddy. Jimmy Butler did the ultimate Jimmy Butler and was absolutely normal. Now, yuck, as in you see the value of having him. Are you basically taking him or are you skipping him when he slips to you? Because he is slipping really far. Currently, 49.7 in Yahoo drafts.
49.7 is pretty bloody tempting to have him there, Jay. I think when you start to get past, when you're starting to get past, 45, 42, even for Jimmy Butler, you're really starting to pull on my strings here, Jay, because that's a great steals, high free throws, good field goal. He doesn't hurt you in categories. Still the number one guy there in Miami, and we know how much you like to get a number one guy. People would reach for Paolo Banchero, and he was still going about the 100th best player in fantasy. But when you get that number one guy, a lot more. The ceiling's a lot higher, Jay. So. Yeah, 49 for Jimmy Butler. But come on, Jimmy. All we wanted to see was bald Jimmy. Yes. That's what I wanted for media day.
You just wanted a completely bald Jimmy. Did you put a punt on for that? Did you put a punt on for that?
No, I just would have loved to have seen it and then just see that bald dome every single time I open my fantasy app. I reckon that'd be awesome. But
no, it's coming. It's one of these years. He's running out of hairstyles, but he's just got so much of the hair. But look, Jimmy Butler, we have as a top 30 guy. I was on social media on one of the YouTube guys. Someone commented come on, Jimmy Butler. And I'm like, yeah, no, 100% Jimmy Butler. Let's say he is 25 to 30. Okay, cool. So let's say he then moves back past where we have him into 35. The fact that he is then around in a bit afterwards and he is slipping to you in drafts as the ADP of 50 is absolutely egregious. Now, this one, I know that you have some feelings about Lauri Markkanen. I know you have some feelings about him. Lauri Markkanen is another guy who is drifting back in drafts. We have him potentially as a top 20 player this season on our big draft boards. And yet he is sliding back all the time in way of ADP. Skiddy, what do you think if I was to give you a sexy bit of Lauri Markkanen falling to you at, let's say, pick 32?
Oh, fuck. Hell yeah. Absolutely, I am in on that. I don't understand why he is. He was the 13th best player. I know a lot of people would. I think you would agree with this, G, that people are worried about the Utah Jazz resting him again. Is that what you would say?
That would be the number one. That's the number one thing, that we know that they're already going the way of the tankulator, and that there's just how many games does he play? Oh, that will hurt me come playoff time. And they just don't want to touch him. They don't want a bar of him around that point.
So that's why everyone's so scared of him.
Has to be. It's literally the bias. He hasn't finished off the last two seasons. We're expecting him to play about 65 games, but you could probably say that he could play every single bloody game until week 18 of fantasy basketball, and then he takes a holiday, which would hurt you considering that the Jazz have a really solid schedule. We just dropped the schedule show. Make sure you go back and you check that out. They have a really sexy schedule of 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, all the way from week 13. That's nice. That's a really nice schedule. I mean, it's fucked for they've got 3 lots of 2 within the first 15 weeks. That kind of sucks a little bit. In the first 12 weeks, sorry. Bit of a hurt. But that string of games, Skiddy, like that's really good for you to win a league after then, or to make a, like, think about it. You got 4, 4, 2, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. And then the next time you play 3 is week 21 before hitting 4 games again. That's a really solid schedule to make a playoff push.
Bingo. Absolutely. It is. It just depends if Lauri is there, but we know what you're going to get out of him. Like, it's threes, points, boards. We can get a lot out of Lauri. It just depends if he's on the court to be able to do it. I really hope he can, Jay, because 32 for a guy that could be almost first round value is bloody tempting.
Now, I saw you in one of our shout out to the Molten lads. We in the Molten chat yesterday, the news was first to drop there that Jaren Jackson Jr. has been injured yet again. He just, I don't know how you do a hamstring. You don't stretch before you start, Jaren. Do you not do some of these ones? Do you not do some calf bends? Mate, he's injured. He's going to slide again. Do you take the gamble on Jaren Jackson Jr.? If I was to give you him at pick 32, bang on at 32. That's
probably that's where I kind of go like, okay, I'll have a look around and see what else is there. Yeah, it's good to have Jaren back with Jar as well. We can see a return to form and hopefully a bit more of his defensive stats roll back up. But yeah, that worries me a slight bit just because of the injury history that he has had. We know that he's been returned late to seasons. He's also returned early into seasons. So there's a lot that can be going on there with Jaren. 32, I probably still have the gamble. It just depends how the start of my draft goes, G. But when we're talking blocks, this man's right up there with the best of them. So you're either going to have to go for the blocks if you want to win them and reach for him, or you're going to let him fall into someone else's hands. And the last thing you want to see is him pair up with Wemby.
Oh, and if he falls around that zone, he is going to the back end of the 3rd round. Now, if we find out word that the hamstring is going to hold him out longer, this could be a drop because he had already dropped back to 32. I mean, it's only almost one position from 31.8. It's not a big drop, but from 31 to 32 in the last couple of weeks of data, the injury can make him drop a few more spots. And then it might be buyer beware. That could make him fall into the 35 zone. And then people are like, do I not? And they're custom.
What this is worrying for people that would have the number 1 pick and want to lean heavily into their blocks is that means that you're still going to now have to try and reach to 24, 25 of your 12 team and have the first pick of Wemby is then to go, hey, am I going to really have a gamble on this injury-prone Jaren Jackson Jr.? It's that is a very, very iffy situation to find yourself in if you're going to go for the blocks on that.
100%. Now, if he's at 32 now, you can expect him to probably drift out in the next week or 2 into like the 36s zone, which is the end of that round. So you're not going to be picking him up where you were. If you were reaching, like you said, it is a bit of a reach because it is pick 23, 24 if you've got Wemby at the beginning of the turn, the end of the turn on the 2nd, the beginning of the 3rd round. You're not going to reach for that anymore. So this is where people later on in the 3rd round might be able, or early in the 4th round, could start to pick up a little bit of value on him. And that's interesting because if he takes a hit, other people might get a bit of a bump in fantasy land. And one of those guys for me is Desmond Bane. Now, Desmond Bane falls into the slipping down the categories a little bit. He started at 33.5 initially on Yahoo. He is now back to 42.6 in Yahoo leagues in ADP data. If I give you that he is sitting there at pick 40, are you willing to roll the dice on one Mr. Desmond Bane, and especially considering you're starting to fall back even more?
Yeah, Desmond Bane's and a very, very interesting one for me. We've seen him be top 40 before. I just don't know how I feel about it with Jar, though, because that's a lot of usage that he has to give up to Jar. Marcus Smart is also there, Jaren Jackson. It's a really tough one there. So I think I pass on Desmond Bane there, but I know what I'm going to get out of Bane. You're going to get your 20 points. You're going to get 3 threes, some rebounds, some assists, a steal, also good percentages. It's very, very safe. I think there's guys that I prefer with a bit more upside around that mark, but it's still not far off for Desmond Bane. And it just depends if I'm going balls to the wall with my first couple of picks. If I'm slamming the balls up there, G, or if I'm just letting them swing loose, then exactly right. If I'm letting them swing loose, then I'll, have a bit more of an upside swing. But Bane's safe as houses. Is that where you kind of see Desi? Are you still in on him?
I'm still in on him around like 36 to 40. So if he's starting to drift to 42 or gets back down to 45, we're talking Jamal Murray territory. And I'm a little bit like, I mean, I know you've just done your Australian tour, your annual Australian tour with New Balance, Jamal, but, you're not going to carry any favor with me because I didn't get the invite. So I'm probably going to lean Desmond Bane around that one. But look, we also haven't seen the Memphis Grizzlies. You hit it on the head there. We haven't seen for a sustained period of time the Ja Morant, Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey experience. We haven't seen it. We don't know how it plays out. But Brandon Clark coming back into that lineup. We know what it works with Brandon Clark. We don't know what it works like with Marcus Smart. Here's the red herring. We didn't get to see it for last year. It just didn't happen. It didn't coalesce. There were suspensions. Ja was back for 9. And then Desi went out. I think we need to give it a chance. But if he's sitting there on the board for me at 40, he is as solid as he's almost like a safe as houses pick. He's just dependable Bane. He's just one of those picks that you can just pick up. And I don't even know if he's a sexy fantasy asset anymore. A couple of years ago when he was firing, it's like, oh, I've got Desmond Bane. But now he just kind of does the job. And we forget about this as time passes by. And as time passes by, have we put enough water under the bridge for Jordan Poole yet? I'm going to ask the question. Are we I'm starting to just get in the feels about it, Skiddy. Now, I'm not going to say it's a good pick. I'm not going to say it's a bad pick, but I'm going to give you a pick. I'm going to give you the opportunity to take him. Jordan Poole has now gone from 83.9, initially, let's say the 84th pick in Yahoo drafts. He is now back to 96. He has officially dropped just inside. He's still, he was inside the top 100, but he has just gone now almost out of the top 100 players in fantasy. He is sitting there at 96. You have the 90th pick. Now, I know on #basketball, I think he's ranked in the 60s or the 70s. I'm going to go and have a look over at that one. And ADP data for Jordan Poole. I'm going to make this really tempting for you. I'm going to literally give you across it because I think this is a hard one to go. Across all things, his average is 92.5. He has dropped down in ESPN to 100.9. So basically 101. Yahoo is 93. Underdog 83. Fantrax, he's actually 81.9. So you could argue 82 there for his ADP. Yep. But he slips to you now in your draft at pick 90, let's say 92. His average ADP right now. Do you take Jordan Poole? Are you willing to let bygones be bygones, let recency bias pass, and pick him up at the 92 marker?
Yes, I 100% am, Jay. Last year, I'm just going to put it down to an absolute shitter in a new team where it just wasn't having much leadership and a lot of dependability. Now you throw in Malcolm Brogdon, who is a player that people respect and they got to have dependability for. So I think he'll put Poole in the right section. And last year, Jay, look, we all know he had one of the most horrendous runs with field goal percentage that we've seen in a long, long time. But at the end of the year, the last 2 weeks of the year, he was almost averaging 24 points, almost 10 assists, 1.4 steals. The percentages were back up. Look, I like it for Poole. I feel like, he was like getting himself ready for a shit system. He's going from Golden State to Washington. It's going to be it's obviously going to have a little bit of a transition period, Jay. So I think we'll see more of point Poole as well this season. Tyus Jones is now gone. So I feel like it's definitely time for Poole to show the player that he's going to be at 90. Yeah. 92. Yeah, easily. I'll even have a look into the 80s, I reckon.
And I've kind of set you up for success or failure. You can be the judge of this one because alley-oop. Get it in the green window. I've got you 3 guys now that are all around the same market, and then I'm going to make you, let's say, pick, skip, kill. I'm going to go pick, skip, kill. We're going to play a game of pick, skip, and kill.
Jeez, I'm not killing anyone, G. What the hell?
Okay. Mary, fuck it. No,
I don't know. Pick, skip, waiver.
All right, pick, skip. Okay, fine. Pick, skip, waiver. We'll do it that way. Your next pick that falls around 98, a couple of picks after him, is Jaylen Suggs. And I know that you love a hustle boy. a hustly boy. Jaylen Suggs has dripped back down on the radars again after a fantastic year in Orlando last year. The arrival of KCP possibly dinting his value. Do you see a dint in value or do you see a hit in value? His current average is 124. He's rocketed up to 135 in ESPN. He is 95 in Yahoo. So this is where it gets interesting. These three guys are all in a Yahoo league around the same marker. Jaylen Suggs, let's say he falls to you at 94, two picks after Poole. Are you taking Suggsy?
I'm not sure. Suggs is a hard one because it's another one of these guys where the defensive stats make him look very, very nice and appealing, right, Jay? So 1.4 steals per game last year, 0.6 blocks is nice, but the counting stats aren't as sexy as, like a Freddie VanVleet, or he's on par with like probably Caruso, I'd say, G. Mm-hmm. But I don't understand why people are fading on Suggs. Literally the point guard that was in the way of, him and sharing his minute load is currently not at the Orlando Magic. So it's kind of free reign for Suggsy.
This is the big thing. We no longer have a Markelle Fultz experience in Orlando. We've only got him, and shout out to Mo Bamba, our good old friend Cole Anthony running the point. Of course, the arrival of KCP, but that fills a hole that they needed in that fills a hole. It doesn't take that roster spot. It opens up more minutes for him, and that's his role. Jaylen Suggs is around 90-ish, I would argue, and he is falling into the 100s in draft. So this is a guy that if he's slipping to you at 94, but definitely in 100, if you're sitting there at that, we have the top 100 because we need to have phrases and sayings like, oh, he's a top 100 player. Yeah, well, okay, cool. He's a top 100 player. So if he's sitting there for you at 104, like you said, like the Carusos of the world, you're like, okay, this is where it gets interesting. And the next one, I chose a personal favorite for you because this guy does a few of the similar things. I don't know much because you've mentioned this guy and how he's helped you win leagues. So I thought I'd bring Terry Rozier to the party.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I'd bring on Scary Terry because I thought I'd hit you with a bit of a fave to make it, more emotionally binding for you. Terry Rozier has been dropping down in drafts. According to his ADP data, Skiddy, you're not going to believe it. He is dropped yet again in the last week, and he has dropped down to bang on 99.
Wow.
Currently. So this is but it's not just 99. He's actually gone to 100.2. So he is now basically not a 100 player. He has just gone over that top 100 threshold, just by a bee's dick. So now you're looking at him at, let's say, 103, and you have to be rubbing your hands together for Terry Rozier at this point.
100%. What do we do? Like, this is one of the best scoring options that we have late in, around the 100 mark, and people are letting him slide even further. It's got me stuffed. This is a starting point guard in the Miami Heat where they don't have massive usage players. Jimmy Butler's not a massive usage player, but Bam's not. Tyler Hero, so. But all of them combined, it's Miami. This is what they do. They share the ball around. They do what they need to do. Scary Terry was 54th per game last year, when he got to the Miami Heat. So he almost averaged 20 points per game, almost 6 assists, a steal. It took him a little bit to ramp up, and then his field goal percentage came back to it again. He's not the best field goal percentage player, but, how he's slipping further has honestly got me stuffed. This is a guy that definitely shouldn't be going past, the 90-odd.
And this is where it's interesting as well, because if we're fading Butler so hard and we're fading Rozier so hard, we can't do both things. Both things can't be right, because if Butler's faded that hard, well, surely someone like Rozier is because of Butler's injuries, he's wanting to be traded, or all the other bullshit you could throw out there left, right, and center. You know what I mean? If that's going to be the case for Butler and he's not going to be as productive or as good, well, who else is going to be? Are we just thinking that the number one fantasy player in the world is going to be like bloody Bam or Tyler Hero? Are we expecting them to take massive 20, 25 spot jumps and leaps, but yet we're willing to knock back Terry Rozier a couple of rounds? I don't think both things can be true. And when they're falling here, that's what we're talking about. And we're talking about that, and you can see that on our big draft day kit as well. The ultimate kit is only $30 Australian, and it is available right now on our Patreon. You can get it at the link below. Make sure you do that, or hit us up in the DMs at Insight or on our Twitter DMs, and we can send you a direct link for that one and get it there, because The big thing is there's 3 guys staring you at the face now. Pick 100. Skiddy, I'm going to give you all 3 at 100. You have pick, skip, or waiver. But skip and waiver is like 2 things. So he has this. Pick, trade, or waiver. You can pick one up. You could trade one away, like you'd grab them, but you just, you don't want to have anything to do with them. But one you don't want to touch. Yeah. Let's give that one. So you've got Jordan Poole, you've got Jaylen Suggs, and you've got Terry Rozier at pick 100. Who are you going to keep on the filthies?
That is a bloody tough one in fairness to you, G, because it really does depend on what kind of build you're going for. But if I'm going to, let's just say, for instance, I'm going for just best guy available who I think is going to return the most fantasy value for me. I'm going to draft Poole. I'll trade Scary Terry, and I will then waive Suggs.
Oh, what a contradiction, my man. Okay, I'm around the same with you. I think I'm around the same. And it's tough. It's tough because they're all around that same marker and a pick 100. I'm probably I do like Suggsy though. I do like my D boys. Yeah.
He's the way that I think about it, G. I think that fantasy wise, I think Poole and Rozier will comfortably beat Jaylen Suggs this year in overall. But I feel like under the right circumstances, there's the right choice in Suggs is the right pick out of these 3. And if you're going more defensively, you're going more blocks, you're going safer field goal percentage, you're going less turnovers, that's when you go Suggs. If you're going for the bigger scores, the more threes, the more assists, but with a bit more negativity in field goal percentage and turnovers, then you're going to go Poole and Scary Terry. I reckon it's just, it's whichever way that kind of leans in your team best. So, but I think overall wise that Poole and Scary get it, but I do like, I like what you're saying with Suggsy. I'm picking up what you're putting down. That's for certain.
And this is where we're saying these guys are slippers in your drafts, and you are going to have options around the pick like 95, anywhere between 92 to 100 zone to grab one of these guys. So what is the decision you have to make? And what best fits your team? If you're already really, really super strong in points and you're looking to get your peripheral stats, you could pick up the Suggsy. If you really need points desperately, you could lean into definitely a Jordan Poole type. If you want a little bit of a fix-it of all things, Terry Rozier fits the bill as maybe as a Jordan Poole light in that way. So it's what it makes it. Yeah. But this guy wasn't light. This guy was a high hopes guy for the 23-24 season. Unfortunately, his season was derailed by injuries. And slippers often have an equivalent value of their recency bias of how many games they played. Last year, one guy who played 58 games for the Brooklyn Nets was one Mr. Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson finished the season as the 127th ranked player, according to Basketball Monster, or where you get your rankings from. And over at hashtag, he was just outside the top 125. Now, if we're looking at Cam's value concurrently, and we think that he is healthy, as we expect for the Brooklyn Nets, who, yes, are for all intents and purposes tanking this season, Skiddy, where would you then rank him, expecting him to be better this year? Just to confirm that, Cam Johnson was 142 last year. On hashtag basketball. His current ADP, fully healthy, on Yahoo, is 127. We are expecting him to be just the same as he was last year. Not play more games, not be as good, not get more shots with Mikal Bridges not there. Cam Thomas was there last year. Do we expect Noah Clowney to be the number one option? No. We know that Claxton's at it, but 127 for CJ, that's too low.
Yeah, I think so. But that's per game. Overall, he was 156th, which is tough because...
say 68, 70 games this year. Let's say he plays a fair 70 games.
Fair 70, then, 127's about right. But, I don't know, does Cam Johnson get me that excited? That's what I'm worrying.
He doesn't. This is what slippers do. They don't get you excited, but they fall. And then you're like, I don't want to be Cam Johnson.
Who cares? But if he falls...
You do if you want to win your league.
But if he falls to, and he doesn't provide for me, then why do I give a shit? Am I going to get excited about 13 points, 1-3, couple of rebounds and assists, not even a whole steal or a whole block on okay percentages? No, not really. I can get that off the waiver, G. So
he just gets the tip of a steal. He's getting deflections, and that means something. I still think he could be like a 15-point a game kind of guy this year.
I need more though, G. Let's say the average points per game is 17.5, I believe it is. If Cam Johnson's not even getting that, then he ain't doing shit for me because he doesn't do anything else really besides shoot threes. But there's perceived that he is able to do it. And there is a possibility that he can. He's in the right place to be able to do it. But we didn't say it at all last year. He was shit house last year.
Yep. And he is about
do it, then I'm getting a waiver. Bugger him.
And he was on the league averages at 4.3 threes per game, 13.4 points per game. I expect that to come up. He was above average, like you said, in 3 points made, 2.4. You can get that from the waiver wire. And he was average at the free throw line as well at 787. So nothing more spectacular. His field goal percentage, though, was down as well, which was a bit of a net negative at 447. Last year. So we could probably argue that, but at 127, I'm willing to kind of take a little bit of an upside gamble on that one. And I'd probably maybe draft him a round or two earlier, especially if he slips into the 130s in the last round of a draft. I'm like 100% having a crack on Cam Johnson instead of maybe some guy who might get some minutes as a 6th or 7th man. At least I know there's starter minutes there, and starter minutes at a point as well for me, I think that gets me there on Cam. I think the starter's minutes that he's going to get, Skiddy, are an asset, which is hard to get.
Can I ask you a question?
You can ask me a question.
So what is so Cam Johnson obviously is going to be getting starters minutes in Brooklyn, right?
Yep.
So what is the difference between you taking, let's say, Cam Johnson at let's say picks 125 is there, right?
Oh, okay. Yep. Good.
Cam Johnson's sitting there. Max Strus is sitting there. Who you going with? Because I know you value Cam Johnson higher than Max Strus. So what's the difference?
Oh, no.
Because they're both getting starters minutes.
Yeah, they are. I don't think there is. I don't think there's much of it. I actually don't not like Max Strus. I actually kind of like Max Strus, and I like his overall. I love his assists. I just think the Karis LeVert experience and the minutes there between them for me is a little bit more impactful on Maxi Strus, and I just don't know who's playing the minutes in Brooklyn. I think it's more the minutes opportunity. Like really,
Wilson,
but are they
Dorian
going to fully do that? Like, are they fully going to do that?
Mate, it's not like Cam Johnson's fucking giving them much.
Look, I think so. I mean, I like Strusy. I like him a lot. I'm just taking the upside potential of Cam Johnson. I think that's where at the last round I'm going to roll the dice. I'm not going to wave the dice. I'm going to roll the dice with him about there.
Let's throw in another guy then if you're worried about LeVert going into Strus. What about Aaron Nesmith in Indiana? Obvious starting small forward spot. He's got no one really coming for his minutes because Jarris Walker's not there yet. Who do you lean? Do you lean Aaron Nesmith first or do you lean Cam Johnson?
I would probably lean Nesmith.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I might actually just pick up a little bit of a Nesmith, to be honest. I think I'm a little bit more into that. I think I like the field goal percentage and the free throw percentage a little bit more.
And you can get Nesmith lower in the draft than you can get Cam Johnson. You can get
another guy who's slipping. This is another guy who's slipping. These are slippers, and this is exactly where we can look at these guys. Like, this is the round of value targets. And another guy is the omelet. Like, how many years do we have to have the experience where we say the omelet? By the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering who the fuck the omelet is, it's my lovely, cute nickname for Onyeka Okongwu, because I just call him the omelet for whatever intents and purposes. The Clint Capella continues to be older. We continue to hear about the youth movement in Atlanta. This could be the year that it happens. I have him as a top 100 player. And yet he is, again, the exact same thing as happening last year, Skiddy. It's almost like I'm living in a vacuum where he started at 140. Now he has come up from 140 in value to 118 in ADP, but I see him as a 90-ish player around the same area as the Jordan Pooles and Jaylen Suggs of the world. And yet he's falling at 120. He's the lowest of all those the three guys that I spoke about earlier. Are you rolling the dice again this year to see where it goes?
Stuff him. He's meant to be started for the last 4 years. I've had enough of this crap. Just like you just have a crack at him around, like, the one. When's his ADP at the moment?
118. 118.
Oh,
it started at 140, and then it's come into 118. So he's still
I'd have a crack there. That's about right. Yeah, he can return somewhat of value in limited minutes. So it's not hurting you too badly. But we saw him get to 25.5 last year. Yeah, I reckon you can still have a crack around that. And let's just hope that the Hawks youth movement does finally give him the opportunity to flourish.
And in #basketball, they ranked him at the end of the season at 111th with 55 games after that one. So if we could give him another 15 games off the back of that, get him in around the 70 marker, we could see that swell upwards and beat that top 100 value. So we're getting a couple of rounds back in Onyeka Okongwu. So these are the guys. Oh, go
sorry,
on.
Jay,
Go,
the last little bit
go.
about Okongwu that I also liked is the fact that he actually was willing to shoot threes. And I think that is a massive part to be able to show his growth as a player. And that can really start to expand his game, which would be very, very nice for Atlanta and his fantasy chops.
And that also fits into our theory that we have about who starts in Atlanta. Is it Bogdan Bogdanovic or Dyson Daniels? Because Dyson sometimes is not the most aggressive shooter. Like, we know he can do out there and get it going. He's not the most aggressive offensive player. But if you mix in someone like Okongwu, who's shown that willingness to stretch the floor more than Clint Capella does, and you roll out that lineup of Dyson, let's say Okongwu, let's say we go Okongwu, Jalen Johnson, Trey, Dyson, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, all of a sudden we've got a little bit of a team going on in our hands.
Then Hunter and Ricochet off the bench. It's not too bad with Capella as well. I mean, look, it's formidable. It's deep. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of switchability. Yeah, it's definitely something to keep the eye on.
So again, guys that we can see slipping in drafts currently for all of our ADP and projections that we think you should keep your eye on come draft day is we've got Fred VanVleet from the Houston Rockets, Jimmy Butler of the Miami Heat, Lauri Markkanen. They pretty much cover the guys in your first 3 rounds, aside from Jaren Jackson Jr., who have just saw drop out into the 4th round of value. So those are guys who could return top 3 rounds of value. Top 4 there. We're going then moving down to the middle area of our draft with about our Desi Baines. We've also got around the 100 marker, guys who are just inside the top 100 who could excel in their roles are Jordan Poole, Jaylen Suggs, and Terry Rozier. And just outside the top 100, around your 115 to 125 marker, you can get guys like Cam Johnson. We mentioned Aaron Nesmith in the show, and also the Onyeka Okongwu experience, as we like to call it, who continues to roll that one. Skiddy, thank you so much, mate. We'll catch up with you very, very soon here on the show.
Appreciate it, Jay. Always can't wait to get into the next one with you.
Mate, take care, everyone. Make sure you do like and subscribe to all of the things, and we'll see you soon. Bye.